Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. All right. These are my artwork because Kenny and I stink, and we forgot to bring our copies of Veiled Fate and Moonrakers over. Welcome to Tablenauts. I'm Doolin.
I'm Max.
I'm Kenny.
And today we have 5 games from a lovely company that we often talk about, and some people accuse us of shilling for, but guess what? They've not paid us anything. No money, because we stink at getting money from people. We've decided to go through all 5 of these games and talk about which is our favorite, which is our least favorite, and why. And to top it all off, you've probably already, judging by when this video will probably come out, seen a bunch about this game right here. But now, with our video, unless other people do this too and it's not original, we're going to compare it to the rest of them so you can decide, is it as good as their games in the past? Is it better? Is it great? Or maybe you just don't care and you're just here to hang out with us because we're funny.
We are.
Yeah. Funny looking. Got him. We're going to take these in order of release, starting with Moonrakers, and discuss where it falls in our ranking of the 5, as well as how we like it. Because it could be number 1, but we hate all of them. It could be number 5, and we love all of them. So, Kenny, starting with you, where does Moonrakers fall, and how do you feel about it?
I should probably clarify. I love all Ivy Studio games, but Moonrakers for me is it's probably 5 for me.
Out of 5 or 10?
5.
Brother,
100%?
No.
It's his 5th ranking, Doolin.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Out of 5, it's a 5, as in it's the worst of the IV Studios games.
It's your bottom one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's I own it. I own the Titan box of basically all the expansions. But I think it's the game that I feel like you can tell it's their first game. It's a bit clunky in spots, and it's not as smooth as a lot of their other games. So we played it recently, and there's spots that I felt like during the buying phase it kind of slows down. Sometimes during other people's turns it can slow down quite a bit. I still enjoy it quite a lot because the table talk and just the negotiation is super fun, and I think it is by far my favorite art out of all the Ivy Studio games. So that's not nothing. But I think it's just not my favorite, but I still like it a lot. I own 2 copies of it. I need to sell one, so
it's your least favorite, and you still like it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
cool. We actually played this the most recent, and so it helped with this quite a bit. Heavy negotiation, and essentially we're all pilots who are trying to go on missions to get prestige and money and all of the stuff, and most of the time you're gonna have to invite people around you and discuss how the payments are going to be paid out to accomplish these missions, because doing them on your own isn't really possible until later in the game when you've made yourself a little bit better, and even then it's really, really difficult. It's really, really hard to ever go on missions by yourself. Max ended up winning our game because he went by himself.
And Max took a turn that was I do this and this and this and this and this and this. It was 20 steps. Is a real flow chart.
Yeah.
I had no idea what he was doing. I just trusted him.
You added to your hand and cold cards from your hand pretty well.
Yeah, our most recent play really added to the fact that Moonrakers is a deck builder. And that is obvious. It's known it's a deck builder, but there are plays of it that you won't do a whole lot to your deck, whether you're going after objectives and getting a bunch of ship parts or just helping out other people for one reason or another. But I think this play that we just had really showed to me, it's a deck builder.
There's a point in the game where people are helping Max too much. I said, you have to help Max because you're the biggest talker at the table.
I am.
You have to help Max half as much as you think you should.
Yeah.
So, and it still didn't help.
He was right.
Yeah.
That's not true. I think because he wasn't trading with you, I was like, I should invite Max more. And I think we went on missions together.
We did go on a couple missions together. Yeah, I was also using you hardcore to get your influence up because I needed that. I needed your influence up. I needed you at 5.
Well,
see what happens when you help him. Yeah.
Anyway,
where's it at for you?
For me, it is number 5 as well. It is. It's the same thing where I like this game. I wouldn't say go as far as to say I love it like you did. I like it. I didn't love it. classic Mac. But with Moonrakers, it's one of those that I think it's heavily dependent on like how I'm feeling and also the group, right? And that's just negotiation through and through. And more I'm finding heavy negotiation games that last longer than like 20 minutes are just not necessarily my wheelhouse. Moonrakers, my number 5, is your number 5.
Yeah.
Where is it for Max? Is it number 1?
Where is it for Max? It's number 3. It's number 3.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's number 3. For me, Moonrakers was always a game that I really liked, but it always fell flat with the groups that I played with. And I guess that still holds true given this last play. And I know you all like it. I'm not saying you all don't like it at all, but, it is your number 5. I know a lot of people talk about how much better Moonrakers is with the expansions, and I agree with the one that we included. And I think there's plenty of other expansions that we haven't even touched yet.
Yeah, there's like 3 kind of like big box expansions, and they have like several mini
modules and stuff. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. I really like Moonrakers, and this is a very difficult ranking video for me to do, and I've hummed and hawed about it over and over again, but I like all of Ivy, so it was just one of those games that really, I've always liked the game, and then this most recent play just rose it in my estimation even more.
So Veiled Fate is next. And we had trouble finding out if Veiled Fate or Mythic Mischief was next because they both came out in the same year. But Kenny did some research for us, and apparently this Kickstarter came out a year before Mythic Mischief's did.
I think it came out like
Kenny thinks it did. So if he's wrong, which sometimes he is,
normally not though.
Rule books he is, but this.
I'm just kidding. True though.
Anyway, we'll go back to Kenny. Sorry, I was gonna go back to you, and I'll let you gather your thoughts.
I know my thoughts.
But Veiled Fate.
Let's
Kenny.
just give a ranking first, then we'll dive.
Oh yeah. So Veiled Fate, where does it fall in your Ivy Studios rankings?
I really like Veiled Fate. I think it's 2 for me.
2.
Yeah.
For me, it is number 1, baby.
Really?
Number 1. By far.
By far, okay.
Number 1. Yes.
It's number 4.
Ooh. Oh, I'm just happy that it's not number 5. I'm so happy that it's not number 5.
It was in contention with 5.
Yeah. Which we had a conversation on the car ride home from Moonrakers that you had said it was teetering on, and I wonder if my my way of trying to convince you otherwise helped with. Hey, but did you consider the expansion?
Yeah, and that's one thing I want to mention, less so about Moonrakers. There's several games coming up that I have some caveats for that I'll bring up when we get to them. But for Veiled Fate, I mean, it's my number 4. I still really like Veiled Fate, but the expansions we've not had a lot of time to dive into. We've played it twice with the expansions. I think the expansion adds a lot to the game. It would probably be my 5 pretty clearly without any expansions. And this is a game that I still really like. So I know I'm putting it 5 last on my list, but just know that I still very much, 4 rather, know that I still very much enjoy Veiled Fate. But the expansion adds a lot to an already good game.
So Kenny, number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a unique game. It's so kind of just weird and offbeat. Like, I don't think this is, out of all these games, this is probably the game that, like, is very, very group dependent. Just because it is so unique and it can feel kind of scattered at points, but I love that about it. I love how different it plays to different player counts, and I think I really love the aesthetics of the game too. I think the art is like it's like runner up for me to Moonrakers art wise, and I think like expansion just offers so much like possibility to like how it's gonna play. So I think it's really great.
Destroys it when it comes to like adding replayability to the game.
Yeah,
because it's not going to feel like the same game if you play. If you went with a different expansion each time, you would feel like you're playing a different experience every single time.
And I'd agree with Max too. Like if it wasn't for the expansion, it'd probably be 3 or 4 maybe.
It'd be really hard. I think it'd still.
It'd probably
I don't
3,
know.
But yeah.
For me, my favorite. I feel like I've talked about this. We have made a video where we talked about how great Veiled Fate is, and I gush about it a bunch. So go check that out as well. But it is. We still need to do the video. It is in my top 5 of all time. It is a game that every single time I play it, there's always a high moment that I'll think about for days to come. And it's normally towards the very end of the game when I know I'm like 1 or 2 moves away from accomplishing, like getting me in a decent position. and can I do it without everybody seeing what I'm doing? Can I bluff my way out of certain things? And then the best high is when everybody reveals what they are.
Yeah.
It is so exciting, and thinking back through all of the moves that people have done and whether or not you were onto them or whether you weren't, like either way, you're still excited. I think I've played this at almost every player count possible, which is crazy because it's 2 to 8. But I've loved it at 2. That was how Max introduced it to me, and that's how I played it on stream with Ivy Studios when I visited, and loved it then. I think that the expansions help it at 2 for sure, but like even at 8, or actually I think we only played it at 7,
yeah,
which we were close. We played with the team variant, which was the first time we ever did that, and I thought that was really exciting.
Yeah,
really, really good. It's completely deduction based, essentially, and deduction is like one of my favorite mechanics. But yeah, I love it.
Which is honestly a great pivot point for me in a way that I don't quite grok Veiled Fate. I love deduction games, and I've talked about it time and time again how much of a fan I am of them, but something about Veiled Fate struggles with me.
I almost feel like it isn't a deduction game. It's a vibe game. It's like
I think vibe's a good way to describe it.
It's it's really just like
that needs to be a mechanic section on
vibes.
BGG. Just vibes.
Smash.
You see what people do and you just go, I think it's this.
Again, I still really like Veiled Fate, but it is the game out of all 5 of these in which I feel the most lost throughout, and I have like very little direction sometimes, and that doesn't really bother me. I still like Veiled Fate a lot, but if I am thinking about like the games that give me the best experiences, I find myself sometimes through Veiled Fate just, I don't know, just play like I'm just like I have no clue what I should be doing here.
And that leads us to Mythic Mischief. Where do we stand on Mythic Mischief? So this is, I should say, like let's just go ahead and think. What is Mythic Mischief? I would describe it as incredibly thematic chess, where with very asymmetric factions.
Yeah, it's an asymmetric abstract game.
Where is Mythic Mischief on our rankings?
4 for me. I really, really, really like it. But 4, yeah.
It is 4 for me.
1.
Yeah.
Number 1?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
wow.
I do want to say, and I'd like to speak first because I think this is huge. This has the biggest caveat of the whole list for me. I love Mythic Mischief. I think it is a fantastic game. 10 out of 10 for me, genuinely. I think it's amazing. But it has a huge caveat in that I just don't know that you need to own it physically. And that is, it feels almost wrong to say it's my favorite. It is my favorite, but I don't play the physical game anymore. Now that is mostly just because I really, you're the only people I play games with. You know, if you have a partner that's willing to pull this out, absolutely you should play it physically. But for me, it's almost come to that Root standpoint where I love Root, but I mean, at this point in time, we basically only play it digitally just because it's hard to get together a group. And it's easier. And this game works incredibly well as an async digital app. We played over 150 games of Mythic Mischief, but 140 of those have probably come on the app. And I think it is absolutely incredible. But
absolutely
incredible, yeah.
I'd push back on that because I think like the production of this game is immaculate.
To be fair, the app is also incredibly well done.
That's true.
Yeah, a lot of my pleasure from playing this game is just getting it on the table and just like oohing and awing over the art and just how it looks and the minis. It has such great table presence that like I actually don't like playing on the app a lot because it is like it's just so AP inducing for me playing it. Like it's just like sometimes I find myself like sitting there for 3 or 4 minutes trying to puzzle out a turn, and that's
allowed though, Kenny. You know why? Because you're not sitting across the table and somebody's being like, "Can you go? Can you go? Can you just do it?"
Well, it's more like I think it's just the way you treat the game. Like when I play like in person, I tend
a little more loosey goosey.
More loosey goosey. Like I don't try to like be perfect, right? It's just like this is a game I'd play with a chess clock and I'd see like how that feels.
Oh, I
like,
love
they
that.
have
We have played it with a chess clock.
I wish that was just a rule.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
And it is great. And it does make me want to play the physical more when you play with some sort of timer like that, where you aren't mathematically playing the game. Because when you play digitally asynchronously, I mean, you can spend as much time as you want taking your turn.
You can undo
a million things,
and
right.
it's great because like I don't have to sit there and watch you do that. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I personally playing it over nap. I find myself I just sit there too long trying to figure out the perfect move, and yeah, I don't like that. But like playing in person, just I reckon I try to like limit how long I take, and it's just much more free flowing and casual. And
I completely agree with everything you all both said, but for me, it is still, given that, my favorite.
That's awesome. All right. The one previous to the game that everybody's waiting for us to talk about, or I don't know, maybe you're just here because you like us, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Fractured Sky probably gets points from me for being the one that intrigued me the most when it was announced, because they were like, oh, it's like hidden information area control. Like you just like said some two buzzwords that I know there's more than two words, but you know, two mechanics that I got really excited about. And then they were like magnets. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that sounds
true.
great. We don't have the magnet
We don't have
version.
the magnets.
But
Yet.
all of it intrigued me a lot. But where does it fall in our rankings?
for me, it's middle of the pack at 3.
Kenny, we've been like just in sync
There
the
we
whole
go.
time. Other than Veil of Fate 1 and 2, like
Yeah.
it's my number 3.
I guess I'm 98 degrees. It's my number 5.
Oh, some heavy differences here.
I like it. I like Fractured Sky. This to me is probably it is where it is. Again, I said this was going to be a list full of caveats and a list full of games I like, but I just want to play it more. I just need to play it more, and it's just I love the combination of hidden information. I've talked about this before, where it's if you've ever played Argent the Consortium, where you can look at the people and kind of figure out what they're vying for. Fractured Sky is the same thing. You can look at where the starfalls are going to happen. You can pre-plan ahead, and it is still luck-based in a lot of ways, and I don't mind that one bit. I really like Fractured Sky. It's just here because I like all of these, and I haven't played it enough. Mm-hmm. So I don't even have any like strong convictions because I really like it. It feels like it should default to 5 because I like all of them, and I need to play it more.
I said it was area control mixed with hidden information, which I still stand by, but I think like it's pretty purely area control because you're just trying to win as many hit fallen stars as possible. Mm-hmm. But instead of, you know, just normal area control where like there's resources you got to spend to like put out ships and like build up like this or that, information is just a resource in this game. Mm-hmm. So I can choose to go for information that will tell me where the stars are falling, or I can just go for getting a whole bunch of resources to make things. I forget all the things that you can use the resources on, but I'm pretty sure it's like
build like stronghold.
Yeah, which I think that's going to be a positive for many and a negative for many, because you can play this game purely luck based.
You could just forget about information. I'm just going to cover the board with things.
And I think people would be. I think there will be games, not that all of them are. I do not think it's a purely luck-based game, but there will be games where someone who has zero information wins just based off of them placing in the right spots and getting lucky. And I think that will make some people very angry. It doesn't for me. I think it's okay. You're playing for information and giving up more power on the board. You know where to go, but you have less power. And those people are doing the exact opposite, but they're just going to get lucky sometimes. So for me, I think this is a game that's really just going to depend on if that gels with you or not. And even though it's at my number 5, I really like it and it does work for me. Just might not for you.
Any more thoughts, Kenny?
No, I think it sounds right. Like I really do like the area control aspect, and like figuring out the balance of like getting information versus just, you know, placing on the board is really like interesting. Like I've played games where I went too far in one direction and just didn't work out. Like I'd probably say like out of all these games, this is the one in terms of like building a good strategy, I've grokked the least, because it's finding that balance is difficult, and like the games can just get really tight points wise, and like it always. I remember this game as like having just like always getting down to the wire, and just feeling very close. Yeah. It's just that really great like.
I
think Tiebreak has decided games multiple times.
Choosing when to take that initiative order in the tiebreak is very powerful.
Yeah.
And we haven't even discussed one of the reasons I like it so much is the bluffing in the game. I mean, you're placing all these things upside down. I forget the exact numbers. It's been a while since we played it. 10-0 or 10-1 or something are the two that are white bordered, and it's just fun to play that mind game with people.
It's your most powerful ship and your least powerful ship.
Yeah, and it's just fun. I mean, if that's a single word to describe it, we have a great time messing with each other. And I think that's why we enjoy a lot of these games, is we enjoy just getting in each other's head and teasing each other and poking fun at. And I think this leans into that a lot. And I really like that aspect of it. I just want to play this one more.
All right, and that leads us to the final one, which
the biggest boy
is the one that you're probably watching to figure out, should I back, should I not? Which, again, don't watch videos to determine whether you should or should not, because then you're going to blame us, and I don't want that. Just take our information and everybody else's information and decide for yourself based off of the money you have.
You're not allowed to blame us.
Anyway.
Ever.
BRINK is unlike any of the rest, which all of them are very unique from each other. How would you guys describe BRINK?
A negotiation worker placement game.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the core.
A little bit of set collection involved
with the
ambassadors.
With the ambassadors.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of everything in this.
Yeah.
Like
a little bit of voting,
resource
bluffing,
management.
resource management. Yeah. The thing that makes me so intrigued and excited about BRINK is that it's a game that is just a full-blown balancing act, in my opinion, of navigating resources, actions, and points. Because every time you place a ship, which you do 9 times in a game, you are getting your resources, you are getting the actions that you can do that turn, and you are getting the power that you are going to be contributing to at the end of every round. And that's just not a lot of actions to get those things, which makes it very, very tense and exciting. And some could say some AP. I don't think we had much of it. A couple of turns where we took a minute or two to decide, but for the most part, it was pretty smooth. So where do we have this on our rankings? If you do the math, you already know where we have this.
Yeah, which I'm actually shocked, but not that shocked because it's really good. But like I didn't realize.
That shocked.
Based off of our conversation, I'm just shocked at this guy, who has it at his.
I think I have it wrong.
Number one.
Number one, yeah.
Number two. So, wow. Okay, so BRINK. We didn't talk about these rankings beforehand. BRINK is at the Tablenauts consensus number 1. Yeah. It's BRINK, Veiled Fight. BRINK, if you could change your fate, would ya? BRINK, Veiled Fate, Mythic Mischief, Fractured Sky, Moonrakers is the Tablenauts together rankings, which I think is actually exactly your rankings.
Oh, wow.
Which is
that?
No,
funny.
Fractured Sky was 3 for him.
Oh, yeah, we need these two to switch. No, I'm sorry.
Wasn't meant to be.
We're going to cut that. So.
No, we're not. I love BRINK. I think it's great. I really like the intensity of it because, like I said, every action is crucial, and it is just a balancing act of, the better action tiles are going to have less resources. Tiles with more resources are going to have less or zero actions. And so everything you're doing is just you're trying to math out and just use your brain to think of the best possible scenario for you in this given moment. Then that is before the vote ever happens. And then when the vote happens, you're like, oh man, do I spend these resources and try and get extra points, or do I think that Doolin's going to do it for me? Like I have 6 green power. Doolin has 4 green power, so he clearly wants green to win too, but he probably doesn't want to win it as much as me. So it's just like it's just really interesting. Every second of BRINK is interesting. And I think that is where, for me, again, where Veiled Fate falls a bit flat is that there are moments where I'm just like, I have no idea. I have no clue. And in BRINK, I think my mind is turning every moment I'm playing this game of what are they going to do and where do they go and where am I going to have to pivot to if they take the spot that I want, and what ambassador action do I need to take, what objective can I accomplish here. Every resource means something. It's just it is really a tight game in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what you said there at the end. Like I think it's a very well-made, tight game. And comparing the two, because Veiled Fate was my number 1, and I talked about the highs, right? There are lows, like some turns where you're, like things are just kind of happening. You're not really sure what's going on, but there's highs in this. Whereas BRINK for me, like they're very different in why I like them, because BRINK doesn't really have like those like what like high moments. It's just good the whole time.
Out of all of them, it reminds me of like a Euro, but it's like a very twisted Euro because like negotiation plays such a big part of it, right? Like all that combined just really hit it out of the park for me. And just I think like you mentioned, like it's a really tight game, and it's just I really like that too. It's just every game came down to the wire.
I do want to speak to the negotiation of BRINK 2 briefly, because I do think that that is a scary word for some people, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be intimidated, but I know a lot of people that don't like Moonrakers because the negotiation is so varied, and it's very difficult. A lot of times people play these negotiation games and they're just like, I don't know the value of anything, and I feel like I'm getting screwed every turn. And I think BRINK does negotiation in a really it is a big part of the game, but at the same time it's forced, basically. Yeah. It's not really forced, but you'd be doing yourself a disservice without doing it. But at the same time, it's also easy. You are gaining influence, or favors rather, that is worthless to you unless you trade it away. So if you end your turn, that's worthless to you. And people around the table know that. And so to me, I found it way easier to just negotiate. Maybe there are going to be people that take BRINK and spend 20 minutes negotiating. We were not that. No. And I don't think you should be that. It was done quick.
No, yeah.
Which you guys are talking about how it being a really integral part of the game. I've not won this game, so maybe that's where I'm wrong, but like I don't see negotiation as even like a big part of what I would like describe BRINK as. Like, because you could go to spots on the map where you have zero negotiation on your turn because you didn't get any of those like trading away resources. And so like it's not like I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I don't think that it's like if you don't like negotiation, don't think that you're automatically not going to like.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, and I think just because like of what you mentioned, that like you kind of want to negotiate because if you don't, it's all gone. Like I think it just makes it easier to like put your foot out there and get what you want. You know.
I just think it's really great. I've had a wonderful time with it. I'm excited to play it again. Big fan.
Well, that is it. I did not expect this, but BRINK is our consensus Tablenauts #1 game. I'm going to go ahead and slide this in front of Kenny because, Kenny, this was your game of choice. Veiled Fate was my #1, and Mythic Mischief was Max's
I'm sorry.
#1.